So, good morning, folks. Hope you all had a very nice long bank holiday weekend. Always a relief to see the participants starting to rise in the window pane. So thank you for joining us this morning. I'm sure if you will recognise me, it's Tony Stevenson. I'm here to guide you through how to help your clients embrace digitalisation. I've got a couple of star guests with me this morning who I will introduce shortly in a little while, and I'll get them to give us their backgrounds, and then we'll dive into the meat of the session. But before we get to that, we've just got to run through the agenda and a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get into it. So cool. So before I jump into that, we've also got Sean and Ewan, and I think Sammy as well on the chat box today. So they'll be guiding you through any questions you've got as we go through, and we'll deal with how we undertake those in a short while. If you want to say hi in the chat box, you're more than welcome to, folks. So the agenda for today, so we pretty standard stuff. We'll run through some introductions so we can all say hello and get to know the people that we're talking today. I'll take us through a little bit of housekeeping. There'll be a short sort of preamble from myself, I guess, as to sort of what prompted this line of discussion and communication, and the kind of background to this webinar essentially. Then we'll jump into the panel discussion. We'll have a Q&A towards the end of the session, and then following the main session, as we tend to do on most of these by popular demand, we'll have a live demo, and Sean's going to take us through that for sort of 10 or 15 minutes. With regard to the demo, so the demo is so we've got a mixture of people that are free agent partners and people that aren't free agent partners on this webinar today. So what we like to do is we like to run a demo at the end, so that anybody that is either new to free agent or hasn't seen free agent for a while can have an opportunity to kind of actually have a look at the product, as well as kind of hear our sort of discussions around industry topics and thought leadership. So that will take place kind of after the main webinar. As I said, it's 10 or 15 minutes, and if you would like to stick around for it, you are more than welcome to, and if you don't, because you already use free agent actively on a day-to-day basis, and you're comfortable with where we're at as a product, then you can drop off at that point. There's no problem. So a bit of housekeeping. So just to ward off what will inevitably be at least 50% of the questions that we get in the Q&A in the chat box. The session will be recorded, and you will get a session you will get the link to the sessions that are sent out to you in the follow-up email. We host them all on the website as well, so even if you kind of missed out or the email doesn't turn up, you can still go and kind of access the session on the website. It's no problem at all. So we have a sort of Q&A option, and we also have a chat option in the kind of panel. I'm sure a good few of you have found the chat option already, which is great. So if you want to sort of chat and just throw comments, kind of in there as we go along, and and discuss with other people what your thoughts are on what we're talking about, then you're more than welcome to do that, and you can use the chat box for that. If you've got sort of a specific question that you would like answered by somebody from the free agent team, then put that in the Q&A section. And then what we do when we get to the end of the webinar, if we've got people who've got specific questions at that point, then they get an opportunity. Then you can fire them in, and we'll address them as a panel if they're if they're ones that we can look to address. Using the Q&A function helps to keep all of the questions in one place, because if you put the questions in the chat, they get sort of lost as we go through the webinar, and and there's a good chance that we won't get the opportunity to kind of pull them out at the end. So yeah, if you've got specific questions that you'd like us to deal with, then pop them in the Q&A, and if you just want to kind of say hello and chat and give your thoughts, then use the chat function for that. We have a polite and respectful policy on free agent webinars. We don't have to enforce it very often, but if you can kind of think of it a bit like being at the cinema, if there's somebody shouting and angry in the seat next to you, it probably ruins your experience a little bit. So we're all for constructive debate, but do keep it polite and respectful. We can disagree agreeably if we need to. So there will be 3 polls in the main part of the webinar today. So there will be a couple of polls that will give you an opportunity to say, yes, I'm interested in hearing from somebody at FreeAgent about what's going on at FreeAgent. Then there'll be one poll, which is kind of an opportunity for us to get your thoughts on, kind of how you feel about the stuff that we're talking about today, because we know it's a challenge faced by the industry, and it's always interesting to see what our listeners are up to. And as I've said, kind of touched on already, there'll be a FreeAgent demo at the end. The panelists don't need to stick around for it. It will be Sean that will take us through it, and then we'll run one final kind of poll at the end to make sure that we've kind of captured everybody's interests. The reason for the poll is because obviously we get people that kind of join early and can listen to the first half, and then we get people that kind of join midway through and and do want to speak to somebody at FreeAgent. So that's how that runs, and then we've got the FreeAgent demo as well. We are CPD accredited now for pretty much kind of everything that we do. A project that we undertook over the last 18 months or so to get all of our stuff CPD accredited. So all of our webinars are now CPD accredited. In order to claim your points, you'll get a link sent through as part of the follow-up email, which you just kind of follow through the clicks and say, yes, I listened to it, and then it will send you the certificate personalized to yourself. I guess probably worth another shout out as well. We're going through the process of getting all of our accreditation stuff CPD accredited as well. So like our main accreditation is CPD accredited, and then the other smaller exams, sort of like mobile and payroll and stuff like that, they're going through the CPD accreditation process as well. Just before we move on from there, I guess there will be people on here who are brand new to FreeAgent and and completely completely fresh to what we do. So I guess just a very quick kind of minute or two on where we've come from and our background. So we've been around about 15 years now, just over 15 years. We're fully cloud-based bookkeeping product. We kind of sit in a similar part of the market to sort of Xero and QuickBooks, but we're focused very much on the micro entity rather than the sort of larger entities that they cover. So we're based in Edinburgh, and we have somewhere in the region of 150,000, just over 150,000, what we call quarterly active users. So anybody that kind of logs into the software and uses it every quarter. We measure our users very differently to the rest of the market, which is essentially just someone has bought a license. That's not how we measure ours. So if we were to kind of do like for like, we'd be probably, well, we know we'd be more than double the number that we quote publicly, because that's the ones that use us. I guess the sort of biggest thing in FreeAgents, certainly in the last 5 years anyway, was we were bought by NatWest Bank. So we are owned fully by NatWest Bank. That gives us a bunch of kind of opportunity to push into the market in ways that some of our competitors don't have. There's a huge amount of upside for that, and it's been a tremendously successful acquisition, and we remain as independent as possible. When you come into the FreeAgent offices, no NatWest branding anywhere. It's very much an independently run operation, and we have our interests at heart of the accountants and bookkeeping community that we like to serve, and that continues to grow. So that is kind of I guess FreeAgent in a nutshell and what we're going to kind of cover today. So I'll just run the first poll quickly, and hopefully there'll be so the reason we do this at the beginning before we've really covered anything is because quite often we'll have people that join the webinar and then a client will ring or something. So if you would like somebody to get in touch, because that was kind of your intention of being here today, this is your opportunity to say yes. And if you say yes, then we'll have somebody get in touch with you and make sure that your questions are answered from a FreeAgent perspective. So it might seem a little premature, but we've had it countless times where we didn't do it like this, and people were like, "Oh, I wanted somebody to get in touch," and it got lost somewhere. So there'll be more opportunities. So if you'd like to, John, I'd like to actually hear what you got to say first. That's absolutely fine. There'll be another opportunity later in the webinar to kind of express your interest, and then you can always follow up later if you change your mind. So no problems. Yeah, we've got about 2/3 of people now that have answered. So I will. Where that came from? Sorry. Oh dear. No. Backwards, please. There we go. Sorry, folks. Got a new mouse, and it's a bit more sensitive than I'm used to having no mouse. Cool. We'll end that there as the numbers seem to have stopped, and then we'll get cracking. So, thank you, folks. File number 1. So, to introduce myself, so I am the presenter today. I'm Tony Stevenson. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for England and Wales, much to most people's surprise. My kind of background before I became to be the Senior Digital Enablement Manager at FreeAgent. So my background, I trained with the Big Four, Deloitte in their corporation tax team in Reading, did my ACA there, a couple of years in industry, and then did 3 or 4 years in a sort of, I guess, a small, medium-sized practice focusing on corporation tax and some element of hospitality accounting as well. I never really found my spiritual home practicing, if I'm really honest, as an employee at least. So I left in 2014 and went to work for Xero. So I worked for Xero for a couple of years in their implementation team, had a year out to go traveling, and then I've been at FreeAgent now for 5 years. I've done a bunch of different roles at FreeAgent, but my current role is Senior Digital Enablement Manager, which means that I get to be involved in a lot of this sort of stuff, thought leadership, presenting webinars, talking on stages, that kind of thing. You'll see me bouncing around on LinkedIn, I'm sure. And then there's a bunch of other stuff in terms of sort of like integrations and internal stuff that I get involved with. And we don't have huge numbers of people at FreeAgent have worked practically in practice, so my insights are not unique, but they're helpful to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward when it comes to our accounting and bookkeeping partners. So we are going to be jumping into a kind of panel discussion shortly. I'm going to get the panelists to introduce themselves, and then I am going to take back over again for 5 minutes just to run through the background, and then we'll jump into the panel. So Valentina, if you could kindly come off mute and just give us a little bit of background on yourself for the listeners, that would be super useful.
Hi, my name is Valentina White. I've been running my own accountancy firm for over 10 years now. It's a small company, and we are working with a small business. I have a couple of employees working with me, and I am certified accountant by experience. That was personal choice. And I guess that's it. That's the most.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Zoe, you know what's coming. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Zoe. We have a small team here, which I've built up over the last 10 years. I started working by myself with a secondhand laptop as a single mum, and we now have 9 employees. One of them works in Spain, so we're international as well. Very proud of that. And we have around about 350 clients now. So yeah, that's us. And we're in sunny Cornwall. And it is very sunny here today.
It's not very sunny here today. And we're off to Cornwall next week. So end of next week, we're going down to see my in-laws. So yeah, hopefully the weather holds. Hopefully the weather holds. So I'm going to pause you guys for just a second while I just kind of run through some of the background on kind of where we got to and how we arrived at this topic of conversation today, and then we'll jump into the questions. So the question we were asking, is are your smaller clients able to keep up? From a sort of market insight perspective, there's somewhere in the region of 5.5 million businesses in the UK kind of operating currently. Down from a peak, actually. I think COVID did have some impact on those numbers and did sort of take them off the boil. Of those 5.5 million, somewhere in the region of 99.9% of those businesses in the UK are sort of small and medium size, so under 250 staff. So the vast majority of those are the small and the medium size piece of what we're looking at. There's anywhere up to, depending on which kind of information you read, anywhere up to 4 million of those 5 million are one person, either sole traders or sole operative limited companies. However, when you look at the kind of accountancy software adoption, if you kind of add up the big kind of four of, you know, ourselves, Xero, Sage, and QuickBooks, and you kind of take their published numbers, it comes in somewhere in the region of just over 2 million, but you know, not a million miles north of 2 million, and we also know you know, a large number of those sort of publicly stated numbers are not kind of actively used bits of software. They are, you know, someone's bought them on behalf of a client type of thing, because you know, that's often a cost-effective way to take your kind of jump into the software market. So I guess the question that kind of arose from those numbers was, you know, why is that? What's the delta? Why is there a big difference between the 2 million and the, you know, 4 or 5.5, or, you know, kind of previously was 6 million, you know, businesses, and you know, why is that adoption sort of not running perhaps as fast as we might have thought it was going to when we sat and looked at these numbers maybe, you know, 5 to 10 years ago. So we ran a series of roadshows, which we do biannually, semi-annually, twice a year. So we get together with our partners and we go out to a bunch of different locations, and you know, and we'll present a bunch of information. And we decided to do something slightly different this time, and that slightly different thing was to run a sort of small workshop at the end of the session and just ask a couple of questions, just to understand, you know, how our partners were getting on, and, you know, and what sort of challenges they were facing. And we asked them 2 questions. The first question was, you know, what are the challenges that you're facing in relation to kind of like persuading your staff that you know, digitization is a good way to go. And then the second question was, what are the challenges that you're facing in persuading your clients that, you know, digitalization is a good way to go. So kind of surprised me actually that the staff piece very much seemed to be much less of a problem than I expected it to be. We got some firms that, you know, were perhaps finding it a little bit difficult, but yeah, and there is also obviously an element of survivorship bias. We're talking to our partners, so they're obviously already on some stage of you know, their digital journey, but you know, it certainly wasn't the kind of blocker that I expected it to be. And there seemed to be a sort of maybe begrudging, I guess, acceptance that, you know, this is the way things are going, and that, you know, we all kind of need to be on board with that. So that was kind of reassuring, and, you know, and often had been, you know, challenging in the past. So it's nice to see that perhaps the mindset has sort of shifted. But the question that we asked that got the sort of bigger response was about clients, and particularly around sort of smaller clients as well, and what challenges that they were facing in terms of, you know, how do we kind of persuade them that, you know, this is a good idea, and, you know, what are the reasons that perhaps it's more difficult to get them over the line and get them started on this stuff than we would like them to. And they kind of broadly broke down into 5 different areas, and these are roughly the areas that we'll discuss as we get into the discussion. But so that was kind of cost, onboarding, ease of use, support, and data quality, and we'll dive into them in a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to run a poll kind of on that, just to understand what your sort of thoughts are on let's go on that type of stuff. So what are the biggest challenges that you kind of face when you're you know, you're trying to sort of get your smaller clients onto you know, onto digital platforms? I'll let that run for a second, and then we'll jump into the questions. Time are we on? Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't think you can see the results, but I will share them with you afterwards. That's interesting. So there's sort of 3 clear winners. Price sensitivity and client's ability to execute basic bookkeeping is almost neck and neck. Yeah, and then client onboarding is a credible third. And support, interesting. Price has just about edged it. Yeah, good response that. You always know you've asked a good question when everybody just kind of like starts hammering into the into the responses straight away. So cool, we've given that a minute now, and I don't think the rest is going to materially change the results. So I'm going to end the poll, and I'm also going to share the results for this one. So hopefully you'll be able to see the results. So as I said, price sensitivity and client's ability to execute bookkeeping tasks, the 2 stand out challenges there. So thank you very much for that. It's really interesting. I'm going to stop sharing that, clear the polls, and then we can get into it. So, panel discussion. So the reason we've got Valentina and Zoe on today, and we've kind of had a couple of conversations in advance of this, is to get their insights into these kind of areas, and and how we can potentially improve them. So I'm going to start with Valentina. So how do you best approach the sensitive subject of cost with our smaller clients? Any advice or guidance or tips or thoughts on that area of questioning, Valentina?
Mm-hmm. So from my own experience, I remember myself when I didn't use softwares and I had to go and start doing something more efficient in my business, because I noticed that I actually spend so much more time and I don't have spare time to do things that I'm supposed to do in a business, because running accountancy firm is not only about doing standard basic accountancy services for the client. We need to provide customer service and sales and learn how to communicate with clients. So the best approach that for me worked was adding the package, basically the price of the software, adding to the package of accountancy that clients pay every month. Of course, it's a price increase, but it's our responsibility to be able to talk to our clients. And I believe that, if clients actually choosing to be with you, then why would you be afraid to talk to your client? They already trust you. The matter is to how you're going to approach the client and to be open with it. Listen, this is going to help you to save certain amount of time, because this is using software, and specifically using FreeAgent actually can help you save a massive amount of time and be more efficient in your business, meaning your clients will be more efficient because they don't need to go and extract bank statements anymore, because everything is connected there. It's automation is already on a software. And you save time because you don't need to do manual data entry. You don't need to keep so many Excel files as you do now. So for me was just to approach to my clients and be actually very honest with them about what benefits is going to bring. And for me, choosing FreeAgent was because they're extremely simple and easy to use software. Because for me, I understand that business, I don't want to be spending my time on something that is complicated. So I chose FreeAgent because it takes something off me, right? It kind of works for me. I don't need to think about a lot of things, and it's easy to find and easy to work with. So it is for my clients. And that's why, sorry?
I was going to say, I suppose, and once you've kind of got them kind of up and running, and they can see that it's easy to use and it benefits them, then the cost conversation is not a tricky one, right?
It just looks like it, because you just, when you do something first time, you don't know where to start. But if you start, you will see that clients actually trust you more than you think. And it's not that difficult. Another approach could be give them a month trial to see that it actually is easy to use. And of course, the cost is on you, but it's not like you're going to lose a lot of money. And from my experience, all of the clients signing up, all of them, if they get a little bit of support to explain what they're supposed to do there, usually in my experience, it takes 15 to 20 minutes just to go through the things, and usually follow up like 10-15 minutes consultation about answering questions after they've been using the software for a month, for example. That's not that much time, considering how much you're going to save in the future.
Very true. Very true. I am going to throw this one over to Zoe now. I'm interested in your thoughts on how you best approach the sensitive subject of cost with your smallest clients.
I suppose it's a sandwich, really. One is to sell to them about the time-saving element of it. So the fact that they're not having to do spreadsheets, they're not having to do manual data entering. So they can spend more time on their tools or in the kitchen or whatever, wherever they work. The other side is with FreeAgent and Metal, it's amazing. Sign them up for a Metal bank account. FreeAgent is free. that will save them around about £25–35 a month, as opposed to going to getting a business bank account, which is usually £8.50, £10 a month, plus QuickBooks, which is what we used to be for our first 8–9 years. So anything up to £30-odd a month. So just by those two things, looking at what we can save them so they can earn more money, or they can get their weekends and evenings back with their family, and then putting them onto FreeAgent and Metal, because as we know, that is free and it's a fantastic tool for them to use.
It's very kind of you to say. I think that it is, for those of you, I guess, that are new to this and maybe questioning what, how does this work? So because we're owned by the bank, you can have a full-blown NatWest business account if you want to, but predominantly the sort of smaller, earlier stage businesses would maybe look to use Metal. So Metal is our challenger bank. It's now got is it FCSA, the 85 grand protection in place, and they're now moving towards being a proper bank rather than a charge card, but it's free. And you get FreeAgent for free with it as well. So if you are in a situation where you're able to get your clients to undertake that, then it just chops this whole conversation out. You don't need to worry about it. It's valid still, because obviously that's not always going to be the case. Maybe some people don't want to switch bank accounts. Maybe they're they're happy with what they've got, and that's absolutely fine. I still think the same process applies. So if you're what you just described there, Zoe, is a kind of like a value first, price second conversation, which is kind of that this is why, same with yourself, Valentina, that this is why you're going to use it, this is why it's good, this is why it's going to help you in your business and help me in my business to help your business as well, which is ultimately where we want to get to with this relationship. And then at that point, you either say it costs this or it costs nothing, and you still sold the value. And I think sometimes when it's a free offering, it can be easy to just go and go, oh, it's free software, and then maybe the perception is that it's not as good, whereas actually it's is exactly the same piece of software that you get whether you pay for it or whether you don't. So yes, we know it's what you just described there, so £25–35 a month, 12 months of the year, £400. When you put that on top of a tax return, basic tax return, sole trader, it's a lot of extra money for what what needs to see the value in that to make their lives easier. So yeah, I completely agree with all of that sort of stuff. I think it's these are the most difficult conversations with our clients, because ultimately they're the smallest clients for a reason. So these costs are bigger to them than they are to a larger business. So the onboarding process. So we've had that conversation with a new client, and we've said, or even an existing client, and we've said, right, okay, we'd like you to move from your previous system of paper or Excel or whatever it might have been, and we'd now like you to to use this piece of software. I'll start with you this time, Zoe. We'll go in reverse order. That onboarding process, is it important? Why is it important? How do we make it nice and smooth? Any tips, tricks, thoughts?
At the moment, all our onboarding is done in person. We haven't started doing onboarding virtually yet, but it is. Okay. We are starting to do that. We're rolling that out and taking bigger people in. But we get the client to come in. We get them to set up the Metal Bank account. Once that's been set up, we then set up the chart of accounts for them. The client then comes in and has a one-to-one. Usually for 20 minutes, half an hour is more than enough for what they need, to show them how to do basic invoicing. We then have a package where they have a client manager here, and the client manager oversees their bookkeeping and is in contact with them either monthly or quarterly, depending on what package they take. But at the moment, it's very much a hand-holding exercise. Make sure that they feel really comfortable with what it is, because a lot of these smaller clients have never used any software. We have a few that convert, but the majority of our clients over the last 18 months have been people who've just used spreadsheets or the good old shoebox and put everything in. But now we actually just talk them through it, talk them through the different terminology. We always say that you're going to have 3 new words that you've never heard of. So Metal, your bank account, FreeAgent is your bookkeeping software, and then we integrate with Dext. So all the receipts get uploaded onto Dext. It all goes on their phones or their tablets, and it's really quite simple. And that's why we want to now expand it to being, sort of taking on 4 or 5 people at a time, but doing it virtually.
Interesting. So we offer, we offer a kind of a service where basically you can book your clients in to spend some time with one of our support team who can help with taking them through stuff. So that's always a good resource to have as part of that process. And I'm sure that your account manager will be more than happy to kind of help you with, building out that, that how do we, put a slide deck together and get the FreeAgent assets and that kind of stuff. So Valentina, your thoughts on onboarding and how to make it work?
Yeah, in my business, I like to have as much free time as possible to concentrate, help my clients grow, for example, right? Or mentor my clients about financial various matters. So my approach is automatization, which is I send my clients emails with either screenshots, for example, how to create a new invoice, or short videos of onboarding, like little by little, like short videos up to a minute, to explain to them what is where and how it works. And usually they, after the first consultation, when we talk through why it is good to use for them, basically that actually resolves all the issues. Barely anyone ever has any additional questions about onboarding. So for me, it's simple. I just have prepared templates and send it. And because, I look at the relationship with my client, that it's not only my responsibility, because the directors, they're running their own business. It's their responsibility too. So one of my core values in the business is cooperation, meaning that both contribute to their business growth, not only myself, but they actually need. And that actually kind of helps them to feel that, oh, I'm responsible for it too. I have to do something to put effort into my business so I have a result. So for me, it works very well, those little templates.
Good. Do you have a sort of automated drip system that sends them out for you kind of without you having to do it, or do you send them out manually after they've joined?
We use CRM system, of course. We use CRM systems, and we have reminders coming up automatically that this is what you should do today, this email you should send out, and the next time we get reminded that the email should be sent this. So we send emails manually, but we automate our reminders. Okay,
cool. Okay. It's an interesting point, I guess, from my end. I think the systems there are really nicely different. I think 2 real good options for how to approach this and how to tackle it. I know we've had Jo Wood from the 6 Figure Bookkeeper on a number of times, and I did a webinar with her about onboarding, and her onboarding process is like, she not quite but pretty much moves in with the clients while they're being onboarded. She holds their hand like very, very tightly, WhatsApp groups with them, gets really, really close with them for a very, very short period of time, and answers everything that they've got, every query that they've got, every question that they've got, and that, I think, is from experience of when you don't have a good onboarding system, things start to go south very quickly, I think, and there's a lot of badly used and unused software out there in the world that suffers from not having had a good onboarding system kind of in place in the first place, to make sure that your client's first experience of this software is not kind of here you go sign up for it yourself, go teach yourself how to use it. It's easy, I'll come back, you know, and then inevitably we know what happens when that happens. One of two things happens: either they do nothing or they do something, but that something is almost always wrong. Yeah, we need to make sure that when we're looking at onboarding, that we have a system and we consider the different eventualities. And it's not that necessarily every client will have an identical system, because you might have some that raise invoices and some that don't. So if they don't raise an invoice, then it's probably not necessary for them to go through the invoicing bit, whatever it might be. There's various different variants of it, and building a system that's flexible enough to make best use of the tools that are available, and also to be able to ensure that clients are feeling warm and fuzzy about the software from the beginning, because ultimately the likelihood is that you've recommended it to them, and therefore there's some perception of, well, I expect you to help me with it, and it sounds like you're both doing that excellently. So we shall move on to the next question. How important is ease of use in choosing the right software? We'll start with you, Valentina, on this one. That's all right.
I think that's for me, for example, it's the most important criteria when I was choosing my software, because I absolutely don't understand why would I have to waste time in a software finding the button which is supposed to be logical, and then you have to spend time thinking that where it could be, because I've tried probably most of the softwares in the market, and for me it's just a nightmare, because I really try to be as much efficient in my business as I can be. So for me, the ease is the most important thing to use, because I know clients as well don't like complicated things. Running a business is not an easy thing to do. And if you have to struggle with your software, you're not really, getting convenient with it, then what's the point? Like, I believe that maybe those complicated softwares in the market, they're supposed to be there for corporate businesses, but looking into reality, the majority of the market is small business. Yeah. And the ease and simplicity to use just takes off our shoulders the heavy weight. Yeah. And then we can just proceed to our routine work, just efficiently.
100%. I think to delve into it in slightly more, I think that the balance is always, speaking from the software side, is it's ease of use versus having everything that you could possibly need, and they're the sort of two sides of the scales, I think. And having kind of operated in other companies that aren't FreeAgent, that I think that the Zeros and the QuickBooks have probably gone more down, certainly Sage, but I'm not really include them in this conversation because they're they range through all sizes of businesses, right? But the Zero and the QuickBooks, I feel, kind of went more towards we need to tick all the feature boxes and make sure that everything's in there, and suddenly you look back at it and go, well, actually, is that probably a bit too complicated for a one-man plumber now? Does he need all of this extra reporting and other bits and pieces? And at FreeAgent, we've always tried to, everything we build is built through the lens of, like, how do we make this complicated or semi-complicated task simple? And if we can't make it simple, then it probably isn't for us. It's probably for somebody else to service that end of the market. So it's always good to hear that we're getting that right for those smaller clients, particularly, I think. So your thoughts on this? I'm interested because you've obviously transitioned or added to your software suite from other cloud accounting bookkeeping tools in the market, and obviously we're not here to throw any mud, but it's interesting in your kind of thoughts on this balance of simplicity versus kind of having everything there, right?
Yeah, well, in the last 18 months, we've onboarded 80 new clients to FreeAgent, and we haven't lost one.
Wow.
so getting the onboarding right, and it's such a good tool. It's so easy to use. Our clients just love it. So in the last 18 months, I've probably only put on 5 onto QuickBooks. The rest have all gone onto FreeAgent, and it's usually because CIS is not really well done with FreeAgent at the moment, or multi-currency. So there has to be a really good reason for me not to put them on FreeAgent, because FreeAgent is so good. And as I said, we haven't had anybody come back to us and say, oh, we don't like this or we don't like that. Sometimes there's a little bit of a training that we need to just look at and just expand upon, get them back in. But it is, yeah, if it's right, it's so easy. It's easy to use, but there's also lots of data there for them as well, to showing them where reports are and things, so they can take control of their business. And some of the smaller ones just need it very simple. They just need cash accounting, and they've just moved from a spreadsheet and they need it simple. But then we also have some clients who are taking on staff and are growing up to the £500,000 mark, but FreeAgent is still beefy enough to cope with that.
We discovered a little while ago, actually it was quite a while ago now, and this might not still be true, but I think we discovered there was a business that had 60 employees and 12 million turnover that was still using FreeAgent. My guess is it was probably creaking a little bit, and there were a couple of external workarounds maybe that they needed to do, but they loved it so much as a system that they wanted to do it. And obviously that's an unusual circumstance, dependent upon the simplicity of your underlying business, and and how how that simplicity scales as you get bigger. It's not necessarily the number of employees. We sort of typically say 0 to 10 is about the FreeAgent sweet spot, but we do range over that, and and typically I think 80% of our users are 0 to 3 employee businesses. So it suits that demographic really nicely, and I think that it'd be interesting to pick up, probably not for now, but we'll pick up on the multi-currency thing if there's something we can do to improve that, because we do have also multi-currency functionality within FreeAgent. So we'll pick up on that later and see if there's anything we can do to improve that functionality to help you with that. Yeah, stay tuned for the CIS stuff. It's being discussed, so fingers crossed we'll potentially might have something to look at later in the year. But as I said, it's being discussed, which is at very early stages. So I think the ease of use thing is very again, and it's like if you kind of start to build this picture, it's like, well, we had a positive price conversation because it was either free or they understood the value, or both. The onboarding went well, so clients still happy. They're not, oh, this was a bit not quite what I was expecting, and now I've got this thing that I don't really know how to get going on. Once they're then up and running, then, oh, well, actually, do you know what, this is really easy to use, and perhaps I could use it for some other things that I hadn't probably thought of before and wasn't doing very well because I had my old sort of system. So we're taking them on that kind of journey now through this whole kind of client experience, and and I think the ease of use is right there in the middle of it. So a huge blocker to firms not clients not being able to kind of get motoring with this stuff. So and then another thing that we hear again and again and again is that support is hugely important. So we did a campaign last year on our support team. Our support team's slightly different in a number of different ways, I guess. One way is that we have our account managers have a lot less partners that they work with than our peers would, so they're able to kind of get into it in more detail. And our support team, we have a phone number, which is a real point of difference for us, so that staff, your clients and yourselves can ring up and speak to somebody, which sometimes you just need to do, right, because you've got a problem and it needs to be dealt with. So I think we started with Valentina last time, so we'll start with Zoe this time. So what does good support look like? And I'm interested in this from your angle, as in how you support your businesses, but also like how you get good support from a software vendor, and and how those three things interact. So
Well, firstly, the support that we get from FreeAgent as a firm of accountants is second to none. We're right down the southwest Cornwall, and we've actually had our account manager come down. I think he's been down twice now, and he's due to come again next month when I'm back from holiday. Our competitor, or your competitor, QuickBooks, lives in Devon, and he doesn't even answer emails. So the support that you get from FreeAgent, the support you get from FreeAgent is second to none. And you even have, you believe in having meetings this side of Bristol, which is brilliant. Because Bristol from here is about 3.5 hours. So to get up there for a 9 o'clock meeting is not good, but you've had them in Exeter, which is only 2 hours, which, yeah, makes all the difference for us. In terms of supporting our clients, we've always got the coffee on the go. Clients will bring in a pastry or something like that, and we'll sit down and we'll discuss the businesses with them. And I do one late evening a week, and that's usually a glass of wine in the garden, and just go through any issues over a glass of wine. We're very Cornish down here. So our approach may not be everybody's approach, but we'd like to get to know our clients. Every member of staff has their own dedicated clients. We get to know their family setups and things, and it's very much we go on a journey with them. And we really like taking small businesses, small startup businesses, because we've got the university next to us, and then seeing those businesses grow, you know, from a sole trader going through to a limited company, taking on their first couple of staff. So yeah, we're very much a hands-on approach. But
do you get a lot of sort of spin outs from the university then? Is that?
Yeah, we go up there and we do. We go and meet some students up there. All our business comes from referrals, so it's a good link for us to have. It's a very creative university, so a lot of people who aren't necessarily good at paperwork, because their creative brain is very good, but their bookkeeping brain is not.
Excellent. Valentina, your thoughts on the support question?
Yeah, I mean, I love what you have as I don't know how it's really called, knowledge database. Most of the answers when it needed, we can just find it there, and it's a lot of visuals, where to press, where to go, how it's done. And if it's more technical issue, more needs some more insights or help from your support, usually we have an email and get a response within few hours, couple of hours, and it's usually resolved within, I don't know, average 2-3 emails, and it's done. So it's really easy to work with you, with your support.
Good. That's good to hear. I think we hear increasingly in the marketplace a couple of stories you just echoed there, Zoe, that our account manager's not really interested in sort of speaking to us and talking to us. We hear that very, very commonly, and that we feel very separate from the support process. So not having a phone number is a big, kind of big problem for a lot of firms, because whilst, I think somewhere in the region of 60% of our tickets still come through email, right? So it's nice to be able to just ping that email off and go, oh, do you know what, I can go to work on the next client, and I can come back to it, and I know that email will probably resolve my query, and if it doesn't, then the next one probably will. But sometimes you do just need to call someone and and get that thing sorted, because there's a deadline and something popped up at the last minute that you weren't able to anticipate. So yeah, we found that it's become a kind of ever widening point of difference from us, I think, the support piece. So
I just would like to add here, if you don't mind,
Of course.
because most of the accountants are introverted people. What
Yes.
we do, it requires, sitting a lot at the table, and we don't like calling. So I think you go on the right path doing the email communication mostly.
Yep.
And it will require to, the extroverted people, of course, they choose to call, but it will require time and adjustment in the market, to see the benefits of emails, because it gets result more quicker.
Yeah.
Just, rather than calling. So I think you just need a little bit more time to form.
Agreed.
it.
I think it's sadly the A/B testing does show that it's more efficient to do these things via email, but equally still having that ability to be able to call someone as a backup is very useful. So in unusual fashion for me, I'm not over time yet, which is good, and we've still got another question left. So we started with Valentina, then Zoe, then Valentina, then Zoe. So it must be Valentina's turn this time. So what else is important for accountants and bookkeepers to ensure they get the most from their client relationships? Now, something that I would like to draw out from you a little bit, Valentina, which we mentioned on the pre-call, and I felt like you were slightly worried that you might go down a bit of a rabbit hole with it, but I quite like you to go down that rabbit hole. So I know that you're into kind of coaching and mentoring and helping business owners to get more from their mindset. So if there's other stuff you want to talk about on this question, go for it as well. But if you'd like to talk about some of that stuff and what you do in that area, that would be super interesting, I'm sure, for people as well. So I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I think what is else important in terms of client and accountant relationship is to remember that, the accountancy is going through the loop of change. So the clients are no longer looking for the basic needs only, only you need to provide me with annual account services and bookkeeping services and payroll, and I don't want anything else from you. Actually, after a lot of digitalization and softwares and everything, clients craving for attention, clients craving to have not only an accountant, but actually a financial partner who can answer their question, and not only a question in regards of, in the box of accountancy, but beyond of this accountancy box, meaning that they need a partner who go into their finances and maybe even personal situations to get this bigger picture. So when you forming relationship with your clients, my recommendation is have a look, how are you different in the market? Because this is really important to know. And from my experience, because I work with other accountants as well, and most of accountants don't even have an idea how they are different in this market. We all can do basic things as, provide them with bookkeeping and accountancy services. But what is it that you're different? Why people are coming to you, and start communicating this as a big value, and you will see maybe that you can provide a little bit more to your clients. Maybe you are very much nurturing, and you can take care of the client and listen to him, to the client, and you can provide more of one-to-one consultations or even mentoring. I don't know, it depends on every single accountant. Some accountants might be very good at saving tax, right? Because this is not ordinary services. Forming a relationship with your client, it's important that you remember you have spent a lot of years training, learning, and gaining experience. And giving out information for free, that's not the right way to go, because accountants form their own market. So if you provide services for free and you don't value what you do, the clients, of course, will think that this is okay just to call accountant and disturb the time that he has. And he knows it only takes 5 minutes for him to answer. So when you building relationship, always remember about self-value as well. It is very important. I've noticed just that a lot of accountants think it's not hard for me, it's not difficult for me, you know, to answer the questions. I know. But the thing is that we're doing a damage, more damage than we are doing a benefit of, you know, to providing to the client some information that we're not supposed to provide for free. But just remember about self-value as well and start forming the correct market, because we train our clients to behave in a certain way. For example, when clients come to us, we have several conditions joining us, and only if client agrees, we would accept the client. And one of the conditions is that we're going to use only FreeAgent software. If they're not happy with it, we will not accept the client. But if we all start forming this kind of attitude, you know, that digitalization is normal, that you're supposed to use software, then all the clients will start understanding that this is normal practice. This is not out of the box, and this is normal and respectful to accountant to, you know, accept their conditions. It's not like, oh, just come any client and we will take you. It's not. We have self-value as well as accountants. We're supposed to have self-value as accountants. So I just want to encourage to respect your time and work.
And presumably if people would like to contact you about helping them in that area, that you are happy to have those messages in your inbox.
Of course.
Good. Very interesting. I always remember once I was interviewing for a job in accountancy, which I didn't really want. And I went through around 2 or 3 rounds with big firm. They were a top 20 firm. And, you know, when you get to the end and they ask you, you know, like, have you got any questions? And I asked the question, so if I was a client and I walked in here now and I'd also gone to see your competitor down the road, and I wanted to use you as an accountant, but I asked you why you were different from your competitors, what would your answer be? And the guy just like looked at me and then looked at the other partner who sat next to him and looked at the other partner who sat next to him, both like shrugged. And he said, he goes, I tell you what, he said, I want to have a think about that. Can I answer that question in the next interview? And then wanted to give me the answer in the second interview. And he did give me a sort of semi-credible answer, which was kind of that they were sort of basically like, you get Big Four quality, but for not as much money, which was a semi-credible answer. But yeah, if anything, I think it made him think about how maybe they might want to give some thought to some of the stuff that you just talked about, Valentina. But Zoe, your thoughts on this kind of topic? Anything else that's important? Make sure they get the best from client relationships. You're still on mute, Zoe.
If you ask us that same question, what makes us different? Ours would be that we like to really get to know the clients. We like to know what makes them tick, because not everybody's interested in just making money. Some people are doing a job because they love doing it. It's a career choice. And then each of our client managers works with those particular clients. So they build up a relationship with the individual client manager. So they're not getting lots of different emails from lots of different people. So they can phone up and they can speak to a person in particular, and they know they don't have to go into lots of detail because the client manager knows them. So we take the relationship. It's very important. It's our core values. When I first started, it was just me and I knew every single client. But as we've taken on staff, I want to make sure that's replicated. And they're not just a number, they feel valued. And I think if a client feels valued, they're your biggest advocate as well. And that's why we don't struggle to get clients. They just get referred all the time. and then we can be choosy about who we take on.
Yeah.
So anybody can do numbers. AI will be doing numbers. What makes a good accountant different, I believe, is that relationship.
Yeah, and AI is not PI insured either, so
No.
Be a while before ChatGPT is signing off your tax return, or GPT-4 as it is now. Okay, that's great. I think your differentiator is wine nights, Zoe, if I'm honest. I think it's the first time I've heard that, so I enjoyed that one. So that brings us kind of to the end of the questions. I'm going to just chuck another poll in here while everybody is have an opportunity to do that. So this is, again, if you'd like us to get in touch with more information, as I said, we have people join midway through. The numbers have probably gone up by 40 since the start of the webinar. Then yeah, stick that in there, you're more than welcome to. We are sort of about on time now, so I'm just going to have a quick look at the Q&A and see whether there was anything in there that jumped out. Zoe's answered the question already. Do you need a UK director to be set on that bank account? Can we get the recording? Yes, Asma, you will get the recording, don't you worry. Direct debits. Oh, that's an interesting one. What are your other 7 conditions they need to agree before becoming a client? So Valentina set up direct debit payment for other services, create their invoice through FreeAgent software, connect bank feeds to FreeAgent. If not possible, we accept QF or CIS. Respond to our email request within 2 working days. I really like this idea of like boundary setting and it being we are like, it's us against this problem of, you know, sorting out your books. It's not I'm here as your, you know, servant to do this, and you can do whatever you want and treat me however you like. I really like that idea and setting it from the very beginning, because I think it starts everything off on the right foot, and make sure that it's a collaborative partnership, not a you know, commander master commander type relationship, which I think then makes those conversations around price and around okay, so you need monthly management accounts now because you've grown and this is becoming a problem. This is how it's going to work. This is how much it's going to cost. It is much easier than if, you know, they're just throwing stuff at you and not engaging with you. I really like that kind of idea. So the numbers will start moving on that poll. So I'm going to end. Oh, we've got one more. We've got about half the people who've responded. So if you do want to, I'll give you another 10 seconds or so. And then if you don't, there'll be one more opportunity after the demo. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to end that poll. And it keeps. My slide management has been very poor today. So we've done the Q&A, we've looked at the Q&A, we're over time. So now I'm going to say thank you to everybody who made today possible. So firstly and foremost, I'm going to say thank you to Valentina and to Zoe. Thank you very much for giving up your time. Your insights have been fantastic. I've really enjoyed the session. It's been a really good opportunity to get into this stuff, and I think our numbers have grown through the webinar, and they haven't peaked and dropped off, so everyone was clearly interested and stuck around, and you know, and got value from what we were saying. So that's great news. Thanks to everybody from FreeAgent who's on the flight deck, Sean, Ewan, Sammy I think might be in there as well, for answering the queries, and to generally helping out from administrative perspective. Thanks to everybody from the comms team, Claire, Georgia and the gang who put these things together. You wouldn't believe the amount of work that goes into you know, to putting these things on. And then the design team also for us as new assets as well, and our new brand, which is wicked. So panelists, you're more than welcome to kind of drop off now, and as I said, we're going to go 10-15 minutes. Sean's going to take us through a demo, and there'll be one final opportunity to say, yeah, Joe, I'm interested and happy. And the final thank you goes to everybody for listening, turning up and sharing your time with us today. So thanks ever so much to the audience as well. Brilliant. So for those of you that are dropping off, thanks so much, and we'll speak to you again soon. And for those of you that are sticking around, I will hand over to Sean, who I probably need to make a co-host. There we go. Brilliant. I shall mute myself now, Sean. Over to you.
Perfect. Can you stop sharing just now so I can take over? Perfect. So there we go. Hopefully now everyone can see my screen. So what we're doing today is taking you through a little demo of FreeAgent, hopefully touching on some of those elements that were discussed today, such as some of Valentina's 7 sort of conditions for working with her is obviously setting up a bank feed. So that's where we're going to start. On my screen, you'll see I've got 2 versions open for you to show you today. We have the desktop version on the left-hand side, and we've got the mobile version on the right-hand side. It's the exact same account that we're logged into at the moment. If we make a change on one, it will instantly impact the other. And again, it's just another benefit of that cloud-based account system. So starting on the desktop version, the first thing you want your client to do is simply click the banking tab, come into bank accounts, and you would want them to click into that business current account. Inside there, you'll see we've got transactions in May, but there's no feed enabled at the moment. To start those transactions coming in through that feed, your client just simply needs to click Enable Bank Feed. They just simply then select whoever it is they bank with, which we'll just go with NatWest. They then select which type of account it is and then click Connect to My Bank. At that time, they will then be transported over to the NatWest side of things, or the Lloyds, Barclays, whoever it is. They'll enter their online banking credentials and select which account they want to connect. Once they click connect, they'll be brought back through to FreeAgent, and those transactions will start being brought in. So yes, it's the most efficient way to get your clients' transactions into FreeAgent, and it does make sense that is a condition, is that they set up that bank feed, because it will save you and your clients more time. They're not going to have to fiddle about with bank statements or worry about that information being leaked where it shouldn't. I'm just going to show you the exact same process on the mobile version now. So at the bottom of the mobile phone, we will click the banking tab at the bottom. We will then click onto the bank account that we're looking to connect. We also have the option of scrolling to the bottom and clicking connect bank accounts as well. But you'll see here, once we're inside a particular bank account, we can use the 3 dots at the top right to enable bank feed as well. Very similar to the desktop version, it will ask me for which bank I am with. And now what I'm going to do is just simply use the NatWest option again, select which type of account it is. Now, this is where it sort of differs from the desktop version. When you are doing it on the mobile app and you click update your accounts, instead of looking for that desktop link to take you to for the NatWest, it's actually taking you to the NatWest mobile banking app. So if your client is logged in already to that mobile banking app, it will simply scan their Face ID or their biometric fingerprint, and it will set up that connection for the transactions to start feeding through just as quick as that. They don't need to then worry about remembering what their login credentials are or their memorable word or whatever it may be. So again, it's just an even easier way for your clients to set up those bank transactions to come in automatically. So that is basically how the transactions get into the FreeAgent license, and that's the best way that we can suggest. Another benefit, because we've got the mobile app here, we're just going to sort of pivot to the capture for later feature. Now, the capture for later feature is basically a way for your clients to capture receipts and store them within the account. What FreeAgent then does is it can extract details from that receipt, which includes the value and the date of the receipt. Then with a click of a button, you can then convert that into an out-of-pocket expense. We'll have other additional functionality which we'll cover in a second as well. So again, you'll see here we're logged into Dottie's Cakes Limited as well as Dottie's Cakes Limited on the desktop version. All I'm going to do is click the green plus at the bottom on the mobile version. And you'll see there at the bottom of that list, I will have capture for later. Once I click onto that, it will give me a little message making sure I know that it's going to use the camera, which I can turn to not show again if I wanted. But as soon as I click OK, it's then going to start looking for a receipt. Now, I'm not having to click any buttons here. It has found that receipt by itself and it scanned it for me. All I need to do is click done. Now, at this stage, what I would suggest you get your clients in the habit of doing is deleting that file name that automatically prompts with today's date. I then suggest entering today's date as well as the vendor as well. So what I'm going to do is just simply enter Smiths, and it's not going to like the spelling, so it's, oh, forgot the Y, there we go. No, 2 seconds. So there we go, Smiths and the date of the receipt, and then simply click done and save to files. Now you'll see there that it's starting to work away on the right hand side on the mobile version. You'll see that little circle is extracting the data. If we now jump over to the desktop version, click the company name at the top right and come into the files area, you will see that that has already been extracted and it's just been completed on the mobile version as well. So again, the benefit of cloud-based accounting system is you and your client are working from the same data, and it's going to instantaneously update on either side. If I click the down arrow to any receipt, you will see that the receipt date as well as the total value is extracted. And again, like I mentioned, it's that one click of a button to convert it to an expense. It's automatically attached to receipt. It's selected the date and the value based on what it's extracted from the receipt itself. You just need to make sure that you're selecting the correct claimant, nominal code, as well as the correct VAT rates, and then you can click create new expense and it'll add it to the license. So again, it's very efficient again for your clients, and that's what the benefit of using a digital platform is. It will make things more efficient for you and your clients. That capture for later feature is predominantly used for out-of-pocket expenses, but it's not limited to just that. If a bank transaction is imported with the same date and the same value as one of those capture for later receipts, then FreeAgent will try and match those two together when the transaction is imported. It will also have the ability to attach those receipts captured via capture for later against bills as well, which are purchase invoices within the license. So it does have some cross-platform functionality across the platform. But yes, that's all I'm going to go through today. Hopefully that's been useful. Do we have any questions before we finish up for the demo, before I hand over back to Tony? Just simply fire it in the chat box or the Q&A box and I'll make sure to cover it just now. Otherwise, that'll be all good. No, all yours, Tony.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sean. Much appreciated. I've always enjoyed the way that Sean does his demos with the sort of side by side. So yeah, wicked. Thanks ever so much, mate. Final poll before we close down the webinar, just to say if there's anybody who's still on the fence and would like us to kind of get in touch with you for a one-to-one consultation, just pop it in there now, click yes, and then we'll draw the webinar to a close. Still 70 people on here who stuck around for the demo, which is great. So thanks ever so much, everyone.